If you're running a nonprofit or building one right now, and you're collecting donations online through events or through social media fundraisers, I need you to stop and watch this entire video before you set up one more payment link. Because here's what most nonprofit founders don't realize until it's too late. The platform you choose to collect donations doesn't just affect your convenience, it affects your fees, it affects your donor data, it affects your IRS tax letters, it affects your board reporting, and ultimately, it affects whether your foundation is financially sustainable or quietly bleeding money every month. I'm Lynette, founder of Passion to Purpose and the Mark Jr. Foundation, and I have been in the nonprofit space long enough to know that choosing the wrong fundraising platform is one of the most expensive mistakes a nonprofit founder can make. In this video, we are honored to have Kristen Stegmuller, the executive director of both the Mark Jr. Foundation and the Mary Strong Foundation, as our guest speaker to walk you through exactly what we use, why we use it, and what we wish someone had told us years ago. Kristen manages events, fundraisers, silent auctions, and donor databases, and she does it with a small team and a very intentional budget. And what she is about to share with you is the kind of insider knowledge that most nonprofits only learn through costly trial and error. By the end of this video, you'll know which free platforms are actually free, which ones will quietly take a cut of every dollar your donors give, why your PayPal setup matters for grant eligibility, and what happens if you don't have it set up correctly. How to choose the right platform based on your event type, your audience, and your fundraising goals. And the one mistake almost every nonprofit makes when picking a platform. And this costs them both money and donor relations. And this is not theory. This is what two real foundations use in the real world right now. So let's get to it.
Okay. Can you guys all see my screen okay? Perfect. So what we use to run all our events and all our different fundraisers, we use a multitude of different platforms. Um, a lot of them because there's strengths and weaknesses in each one. So I wanted to show some of those different platforms and let you guys really get a view of them and our personal takes on like the best uses, pros and cons of them all. There's not truly any more one true platform that you can use for everything. Nor would you want that because then you're looking at using one that's a paid one for every single thing and you don't need. So some things to consider because there's a lot out there and it seems like every month there's a brand new platform for nonprofit donations and events to go through. So I would ask myself, what is the use of this? Am I looking just for donations? Is this an in-person fundraiser, a virtual fundraiser? If I'm going to do a combination of in-person, virtual, am I going to have a silent auction or raffle? If you're going to have a raffle, consider also your state rules on raffles. I know here in Colorado, I can't do them virtually and take payments virtually. So it's always something important to consider before you even start getting to looking at a program. Also look at, is this going to be a fundraiser that's going to be donor restricted? Like, are you fundraising for a certain type of research and everyone that's donating is specifically wanting it to go just for research? That's something you have to consider, especially with your accounting as well. And then also your reporting. Like if you just need money coming in and you're just putting it as donation, that's a different kind of report you might need than if it's something that's coming in for 3 or 4 different types of things and there's donor restrictions. So I highly suggest always pulling what the reports will look like, asking for an example, and giving them to your accountant because they're going to be able to tell you best, hey, this is a good report. I really like this system. This works well for us. Or this is going to be way more time and we're not going to get the information we need. And then also look at the goal you're going to raise. Like if you're looking to raise, 6,000 or less, you probably don't need a really robust pay system or even a pay system versus if you're doing something like a gala where you're looking at, 30, 40, $50,000 at least, then you probably want to go to paid route. And then also look at your audience. So who's going to be using it? If you're doing like a sipping painting class that's going to have, 40 and under people, that's a little more tech savvy than if you're going to be going to an event that's going to have a lot of senior citizens there that aren't going to really understand and enjoy having to use a QR code to give. And always having different ways to do that as well, because you'll have a lot of events where you have mixed. Um, then also want to look at who will be running the event. And this is a really big, important one that I feel oftentimes gets overlooked. Because, oh, I'm sorry, Max is playing Zoom here. So, are you going to have staff? Are you going to have volunteers? Do your volunteers, if it's a program you have to run through a tablet, do they have access to the tablets, or is it an app they're willing to put on their phone? If they don't, then how are you going to get that for them? Or maybe that isn't the right platform to use for this event if you don't have people that are going to be able to run it for you there. The length of use. If this is going to be just a general thing that's out there for a long time, you definitely want to look at a free platform versus if this is a large event that's once a year, or if it's a large event that's going to be annual, but it's one date and time. And then how often you're doing this. Like I just said, is this going to be an annual thing? Or are you doing this just one time because somebody just wanted you to do it? You don't want to buy a paid program if you're just going to use it once ever. So the free platforms, there are a lot of free options out there. Really dive into, is it actually free? And then the strengths and weaknesses of each one, because they all offer different things. So I'll go over a few of them and tell you how we use them. So PayPal. Everybody knows PayPal. Everybody has some form of PayPal. We are locked into a system where pretty much every nonprofit should have a PayPal account and be a verified charity through it if you have a 501c3, because a lot of grants will ask you for your PayPal and go through your PayPal. Facebook is a great example. They go through your PayPal. So it's something everybody has to have. The nice part about it for just general giving is it's easy to use, again, because everyone has to have it, everybody knows it. You can send invoices to people if they're buying shirts and you need them to pay, or sponsorships. That's always a nice thing to do. You're not relying on waiting for somebody to go in and pay on a link. You can send them that reminder. And you can pay bills through it. I highly recommend not paying a lot of bills through it, just because of paper trails and accounting systems, and your accountant will thank you for not paying bills through it. And then in order to do a Venmo, you have to have a PayPal. It combines through them. The cons on PayPal. It's free, but there are fees associated. Even as a nonprofit, there is a charge for processing. So right now the processing fee for PayPal is 1.9% plus 49 cents per donation. The reports you get on PayPal are not the easiest for your accountant sometimes, especially if you have multiple things going through them and someone has to physically go in and pull them. They don't come weekly, annually, monthly to them. So you have to be regularly going in and pulling in them. Also, you're kind of at the mercy of what donor information people want to put in. The great thing with it is they can set up monthly payments and just have it keep going, which is great. People do that on PayPal. They kind of set it, forget it, and that's your monthly thing coming in. The bad part is people move. Sometimes people change email addresses and they don't necessarily think to go change that information in PayPal. So unless they actively go in and change it, your information's out of date. If they even give you, all they have to give you on PayPal is an email address. So if you send physical tax documents as well, you're missing that piece. And I highly recommend sending physical as well as email ones, because people don't always check their emails. And that way they have that physical copy when they're going to do their taxes. The other kind of hard part about it is online. So there isn't really a physical card pay option. So we have a lot of people that love to hand me a credit card. So to do PayPal for some of our events just does not work because I can't take that credit card. And if someone's handing you a credit card and asking you just to input it into the system, I would very much recommend never doing that. If you are going to do it, input the numbers, have them look at the numbers you put in, and okay everything that goes through. There's also fraud issues. I think all of us have heard about frauds that have happened on PayPal. I've had issues with it a number of times with people hacking in and stuff because they hack in through your email, and how many people use their same password for their PayPal that they use for their email and they use for everything else. That's another thing to consider. And then the last thing again is those tax letters. So PayPal will send letters. You should always be sending, well, they send receipts. You should always be sending backup letters as well. And you're going to have to keep in your system a way to track your PayPal donations so you can pull a letter and create it at the end of the year. It just doesn't happen for you like on some of the other free ones. Down here on the bottom, you can kind of see what happens with the fees for processing. Just these are some examples of some we've gotten in, and you can see the difference between what people gave versus the fees that were taken out. The necessary evil with PayPal, and really as nonprofits, we all should have that. And then you see here too, there is a delay getting your money and you have to go in and manually request it. And please do that regularly. It's another issue for your accountant that they don't like money hanging out in PayPal forever because they want to make sure it's being recorded when it's coming in. And if you needed it immediately, say you'd forgotten to pull it for a few months and you're like, oh gosh, we have to pay this bill and we don't have the money, it's sitting in PayPal, you are looking at a fee on that as well. But that's pretty standard across. So with that 1.99% plus the 49 cents per donation, this is kind of a rundown to show you guys for these small little donations you get, that's actually a large percentage you start to see. Versus if anyone ever wanted to give you $1,000 through PayPal, it becomes much less of a percentage, but it's truly always more than that 1.9% that they say. Just to keep in the back of your mind. And then with Facebook Giving, it's a great tool for raising awareness about your foundation, but it's a pass-through. So people give their money to Facebook, and then it passes through and goes to your foundation through PayPal. So you don't get that donor information. All you get is the money. And it comes to you a month after through PayPal. So if, say, you have 2 or 3 board members that have a birthday in the same month and run an amount, you don't have the exact accurate amount for how much each of those actually brought in unless you start doing the math on your end, because it comes as one lump sum. So there's always something to think about, but it is a great tool to get awareness out there to people that might be ignoring a post that was shared, but all of a sudden their friend's having a birthday fundraiser and they see it, and that name is out there. Venmo. So Venmo goes through PayPal. You have to have PayPal to do Venmo. The pros of it is so easy for donors to use. Most people have Venmo on their phone. Super easy. They can click the QR and send it. They're very, very familiar with it. Also, then when they go in and look at their history, your foundation is popping up in their history to remind them of some event they went to, something that made them want to donate, which is great. That's their marketing kind of part of that. And then you also have that immediate verification that comes to whoever has the Venmo on their phone that, hey, you just got a donation in here. So if somebody's paying for something at a fair to help your foundation, you've immediately got that verification. It pops up as a text message, so you don't have to worry about having Wi-Fi. The cons on it is there's foundation access limitations. So if you don't have if you don't have Venmo on your phone or on your foundation yet, a personal number can only have one business attached to it, and only one phone can have that business. So, for example, the Mark Jr. Foundation has been around for 18 years. We have a Venmo, It's actually on Mark Senior's phone because Lynette has her own business through her phone. And then we have the Mary Strong Foundation. Well, Bobby, my husband, has that on his phone because I have another business through my phone. So when you're at an event, unless Mark or Bobby are there, you don't necessarily have that immediate verification, and we don't have the QR code on the phone. We have to give them a printed one. So that can make some difficulties, lag times. You also, again, as with everything, you have the potential for fraud. With it on your phone, you lose your phone, make sure that you're immediately going in and canceling everything, letting Venmo know. And then the donor fees, the same donor fees you see with PayPal apply to your Venmo when it goes through. Tax letters and reporting are the big one with Venmo because you get the name and hopefully the phone number of who Venmo, but you're not getting addresses. You're not necessarily getting email addresses. So there's a big gap in being able to send tax letters. Reporting is simply, well, here's the history of our Venmo screenshot and here's what came in, and that's what we've got. We have no physical report. So that all leads to a lot of chaos, but again, it's an easy program to have out there for people. Just watch how often you use it and make it available for people. There's also human error. How many times do people say, oh, I'll just look you up and put it in there? Well, has anyone ever accidentally Venmoed the wrong person? It happens. So there's human error. And the donor ease is a great pro, but it also can be a con if somebody's wanting to send something through you for Venmo, but they're like, hey, I only want this to go for this kid. All of a sudden, they just put a donor restriction on your donation, but there is no backtracking reporting coming from Venmo on that restriction. So it's always something to keep in mind. And if someone's wanting to do that, be like, hey, that's fantastic. Can you go through some of these other pay areas? Just because we want to make sure reporting, we can show you exactly that money went in for this child and went directly out. Zephy is one of my favorite ones for just donations across the board. It's a company out of Canada. There are no fees for foundations. You don't have to enable anything, which is a giant pro. You don't have to remember when you're going to create anything to like click a box. It's just there. From the perspective of the foundations, it's super easy to navigate and set up. They talk you through screen by screen by screen. A con of that can be it takes a little while because you do have to go screen by screen by screen. And if you get to the last screen, you're like, I forgot to put that in. You have to go all the way back. So just something to think about when you're putting stuff in, go slow. You can always go in and edit. You can run multiple campaigns on the same page at the same time, and I'll show you guys what that looks like in a minute. And there are multiple ways to pay. So it's not just, hey, we're paying it through PayPal. We can take Venmo. It can take Venmo, it can take credit cards. You can put in what you want on there. The funds are auto deposited weekly, so you don't have to worry about going in to ask for your funds to come in. They auto on Saturdays, they wrap up what came through Friday, and it shows up in your account Monday, and they send you a report and break it down by campaign, which is super helpful. Accountants love that. The tax letters are auto sent through Zephy, which is really nice. So when you create your campaign, you can go in and create your tax letter. Otherwise, they do their generic tax letter. They send it out. They send it out at the end of the year as well. I've been, just for good practice and as a thank you, always been sending our own as well through donors through Zephy, just because it's another one of those extra little pieces that says, hey, I saw you do this and I really appreciate it, and gets that friendly, good feel vibe for your foundation. Recurring donations are easy to set up here. You can do it monthly. And the nice part about this versus PayPal is you can say, hey, a $20 donation helps get X for a family once a month. A $40 donation, you just did Y for a month. So it gives that engagement to them, and they're like, oh, I love that every month I'm doing this, which is a nice piece that PayPal doesn't have on that. And then the QR codes. Zeppy, you can do QR codes to get into any of it. Super easy again. I think most across the board now have QR codes, which is nice. I know everybody gripes about them, but then everybody uses them. And when you're printing things, super easy to put a QR code on there. And Zeppy, you can run it from your phone. So you can run an event from your phone on Zeppy, which is a nice little check there as well. Zeppy will send you an email when somebody has made a donation, so you'll get an email notification the second it comes through too. So this is like if you went into our marketing, you're just Zeppy, this is what the public sees. They see our general donations, and then they see our upcoming events that we have going on through Zeppy. So like we had the brain cancer awareness one, and then we have like the birthday club. So they get to choose all of these and see right up the bat, but it's one link. And then when you get in, there is a little customization you can do for each one. So this is an example of the birthday club. You can do the photo you can customize, the little blurb you can customize, and then the different levels you can customize. You can also like set a number that people can buy of each one on there. And then there's that add a donation. So the donation part will be just a donation to the foundation. When they get to checkout, there's an optional cover the fees, which is kind of a con. So when you get to that and it's help Zeppy, you can see like it starts at like 17% for people to cover the fees. Even if they don't opt for that, Zeppy will always be free for foundations, but it's an auto one in there that comes up. People have to click it off when they're checking out. So when you check out and all of a sudden you're seeing, well, I wanted to donate $40. Why am I donating $46.80? And you see that they have to drag it down and just click it off. Not a big deal. However, with some people not super tax savvy, or to see that right away, it's a little bit of a shock. It can turn people off. I have a board member on Mary Strong that like hates every time I use Zeppy because she sees that and she's like, I hate that. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not charging us anything to use it. So I'm like, just click it off. It makes no difference. Just something you need to always tell your people. So if you're doing a multiple component event, so what I mean with that is, hey, we're doing axe throwing, we're selling tickets, and we're doing a silent auction, and there's a possibility of a donation, or just simply tickets and a silent auction. You can't put those under the same event. So you would have to create two different events for that in Zeppy. You would have to create the ticketing and then the silent auction as two separate events, which can be confusing for people. It's a little extra work on your part. With reporting, it's hard. And it doesn't give you that feel good of seeing like the total of how much your whole event brought in. They're Canadian based. For some people, that's a turnoff if they want to do only American. But there's no issue with money coming in and out in US dollars or anything like that. The funds are deposited once a week. So if you're having an event on Sunday and you're like, I've got to pay this bill on Tuesday, they're not going to be there. Auction alerts, they don't text auction alerts. So the auction alerts are via email. So again, if people aren't on Wi-Fi, don't get email automatically, aren't regularly checking it because they're enjoying the event, they're not getting an alert that, hey, you just missed out on your silent auction item. AG users, it's just been found that Zeppy is easier for 25 and younger just because of the understanding, wait, here's the fee, I have to check it out. When we're older, we have kids, we have all stuff going on. We don't want to sit there and have to go through a bunch of screens. And then there is some manual entry. So if you're at an event and somebody doesn't want to put in their own stuff or it's not working for them, you do have to go in and manually enter it, which is a pain and then can also lead to those errors and stuff. GiveButter is kind of like Zeppy for the US. So it's free for foundations with the asterisks of you have to just, when you go in and you create whatever event you're doing or fundraiser, you have to click a button that says ask people to cover the fees. If you click that, it's free for your foundation. And I should say Zeppy and GiveButter don't charge the processing fees for credit cards. You can do multiple element events. So for example, we did Axering through GiveButter. We were able to do tickets and silent auction right through it. People were also able to make a donation. So it's really great for that. I'll show you an example of what that looked like here in a minute. Um, if you're the event coordinator, you get text on your phone immediately when people are paying for things. So like we're signing out of this, we finished silent auction, trying to figure out who needs to pay and stuff. Well, you're getting texts saying this person's paid this amount, this person's paid this amount. So you're constantly seeing that. There's a little more security to it because it has authentication. Every time you get into it, you have to do the two-factor authentication. Like even if you have it up on your tablet, you're checking someone in, you go do something for 5 minutes, you come back, you're going to have to re-authenticate it. So it is a little more secure. It's got a little more personalization for the event website design, which I'll show you that as well, versus Zeppi. You can make it a little more your own, include sponsors on that. Zeppi is very hard. You can't include sponsors on that page. 24/7 support, which is huge. Zeppi doesn't have support on the weekends. GiveButter, if you're at an event on the weekend, you can get a hold of somebody. You can run it right from your phone. You can run it right from your tablet. You can send it to a volunteer. If they download the app on their phone, send it to the volunteer. They can run it right through their phone as well for you. If people want to pay by a physical credit card, because people love doing that, you literally can tap it on the back of your phone and it'll charge it for you once you bring up that person, sends them a receipt. It's great. You can also do table seating. When we did our Axering, we actually assigned lanes as a table for people through it. So they got information when they looked up their ticket and it said, I'm at one. Well, lane one. Perfect. Okay, I know what that is. And then they don't do an auto deposit. The funds are there, and whenever you need them, you can go in and get them. It's 24 to 48 hours for them to process and come to you. Not a fee on that. So you can kind of see here down in the corner where you see where I assigned my lanes. And then up here, you can see the different ones that you have going. So when you go to your foundations page on this, you're going to see your active campaigns, and this is what the public sees. So they see your active campaigns, but they also see your past campaigns, which I kind of like, because if it's a new donor and say they're coming to our gray and gold tournament, well, all of a sudden they're also seeing that we did an Axering event. And that's just a really good way to market a past event that maybe you're doing repeatedly. And you might get some questions about it. Or they have the general donate button as well, where they can donate. Then when they click into event, so this was our Axering, we're able to customize here to put in all our sponsors. And then our silent auction, we're able to customize our silent auction to look a lot like some of the paid systems where you have featured items and they see the things, they can go in and click on it and do that, which is really nice to be able to see that and not constantly be having to go up and look at a piece of paper. The cons with GiveButter. There's some donor verification issues. So because there's that two-factor verification, when they go in and say they bid on something and they got outbid and they want to bid again, they have to go through that two-factor verification system again. It makes it super safe, but sometimes people don't always remember and get upset doing that. So it's just something you have to be aware that you might have to talk people through. Fun thing when they do the silent auctions is they can go in and set their max they want to pay for an item. So it'll just keep auto bidding for them until they hit that. When they hit that and they're outbid, then they'll get the update like, hey, you were outbid on this if you want to go in and rebid. Also, if you have some non-tech savvy people, like we had my dad, you as the administrators can actually go in and bid for them with their information. Again, always make sure they're with you and you're watching that. But that's a nice little added bonus because we do have people that, doing the online bidding just doesn't work well for them. So to be able to help them with that is huge. Zeppi does not have that. But that's also part of that manual data entry, like make sure people are watching and helping. That's always going to be an issue we're going to have. Security just is another general issue. Thankfully, they have the two-factor verification, but we had someone at Axe Out whose account was being hacked across the state during the event, but they got an email immediately saying, hey, somebody in XYZ city is trying to get into your account, and we're able to block it right at the event, real time, get them back in. So, I mean, it happens. People get hacked all the time, especially if someone's hacked your email, they've got access to everything you do. Age of users, it's going to be an issue, especially for a while. Just, as people get older, our parents don't like using things like this. So it's always something to keep in mind. And then also the requesting fund transfer. If you forget to do it and you need them and you think they're in the account, that can cause an issue, but it is nice. What we normally do is let it sit there until the event's over and then transfer it all over. But you can do what you want when you want. And the reports, from what I've heard, are very nice for my accountant. So, and then you see you'll go in payouts, but it'll tell you what's available. You can withdraw if it is. You can also set the amount you want to withdraw. So say you have multiple events coming in and you just want to withdraw like your sponsorships for this event so you can pay for it. You can go in and say, hey, I only want 600 of this right now. I want the rest to stay, and it'll stay there. And here's that optional donor tip up here. Literally, you set it and you're not going to be charged. Better Giving is another one out there. People hear about it a lot. There's no fund management fee. It's a nonprofit. It is great if people want to give you stocks, bonds, crypto, IRS contributions, that kind of stuff. You can also use it for general giving. But it's a pass-through. So it's really great for the stocks and bonds and IRS you don't want to deal with because that's a lot, especially on executive directors and the accounting for a small foundation. And then there's an option for the donors to cover the contributions. Or you can opt out of the donor contribution and it's a 1.5% platform fee, which is pretty low compared to everything else out there. It's a fun pass through. So there is always the question of, especially when it's stocks and bonds, well, who owns it? And at what point did it get to me? Did it get to them and it was at a higher rate, but they didn't sell and now it's a lower rate? So we actually lost. So there's those questions that you just have to be aware of. But if someone's willing to give you a stock and bonds, say yes. And then there's just that reporting issue as well that you have to, because it's a pass through, you might have people being like, well, I gave you the stock through Better Giving. Why does my tax letter say it's from Better Giving? Because they'll send the tax letter. And so it's just something you got to know you're gonna get questions on. You do not send the tax letter on it. They send the tax letter on it. GoFundMe. We all have people doing GoFundMes. We see it all the time. I had someone doing a GoFundMe to help buy their house for them. If you're a certified charity, there's no platform fee, which is great. But their transaction fees are higher than PayPal. It's 2.2% plus 30 cents per donation. So donors can opt to add an additional contribution, but the total amount they contribute, say they wanted to contribute 20 and they contributed $5 to offset the cost. Well, they're actually going to take that 2.2% off of the 25, not the 20. So just something to think about. You kind of see where the effective rates kind of sit in there, even though it's 30 cents per donation, that does factor into that percentage then. I always say GoFundMe is really great for like people that are trying to do stuff for their own medical stuff, but they have to pay a fee too. So it's there. It's something we have. I don't recommend it for charities unless there's like a certain thing you're trying to fundraise specifically for. And GoFundMe is very attractive to people because they know the name. So here's a cost comparison. Say you raise $10,000. This is the cost comparison of what the different companies you would ultimately end up getting. You can see on these free ones with the tips enabled, you end up getting that 10,000. Once you start doing the donor support disabled or the percentage for running the cars, processing, you start to see it lower and lower and lower. So it's just something to think about when you're looking at truly how much money do we want to bring in. Like, yes, PayPal is very easy, but do we want to run this through PayPal, or do we want to send people through Zeppi, which might be a little harder for our donors, but ultimately brings in more money. And if you're very transparent with people why you're running it through whatever platform you are, they'll be happy to support it. The paid platforms, are they worth it? So we've used paid platforms before. Things to think of before you, and nobody says you can't talk to every paid platform out there and have multiple meetings with them, make them show you reports. They're selling you it, okay? They're making money off of it. So you can ask whatever you want as many times as you want. Thing to ask, is support available? How often is it available? Are they not there on weekends? Because your events are going to be on the weekend. You need support there if something goes down. Also, training. Is there training? Yeah, here's a website you can look everything through, or we're going to get on a phone call with you and talk you through it initially, and then we're happy to get on one whenever you want. Plus, we have that website. That makes a big difference when you're setting these up. How will your event page look? The more specialized and tailored it looks, especially if you're doing a gala, the more attractive it's going to be to your audience. What amount is actually going to be due for using this service, and how are they going to be taking the payments? Are you going to end up having to send them a check? Are they going to take a percent out of each donation? At what point do they take that percent? At what point, if you haven't gotten the money in, are they like, well, we're going to just charge you the rest? All things to think on. The amount they're charging. So not only the amount of, hey, this is $1,000 for the year, you can use it as many times as you want, but what are the fees on that? Are there ticketing fees? Are there processing fees? One we found out too was, well, there's ticketing fees, there's processing fees, but then they were running it through Stripe. If you run Stripe as a nonprofit, you don't pay the processing fees. But because they were a for-profit company running us through Stripe, they were passing on that processing fee to us as well. So we were paying double processing fees. That wasn't disclosed. So always something to look at. Make sure your accountant asks for, or you ask for and give your accountant what their reports look like, because they're going to be able to break it down and be like, okay, these numbers don't add up, or this is a great report, I can get everything I want off of it. Then again, with the credit cards, are they processing themselves? Are they doing it through a third party? Who's paying what fees where? If they're processing through it themselves, there is going to be a processing fee, but you're not going to get hit with that double processing fee if that's what they decide to do. How easy is it for me to get checks in cash as well at my event and enter it into the system so I have one place where I can find everything? A lot of sponsors love to send you checks. You need to be able to input that and input all their information in so they get the credit as a sponsor. And the ease of doing that, the ease of contacting your donors and your bidders. You know, if it's just an auto at this time and this time we send information to the bidders, or hey, I can go up and set that every half hour I send a customized text to the people that are at this event, reminding them of this, that, and the other, and I can set them ahead of time. That saves you time and it keeps people really engaged with very little effort on your side during the event. The payments on the day of, the best way to take those. You know, are they going to be able to do a credit card machine to you guys? Are you going to be able to tap and pay? Are you going to have to manually enter credit cards if someone wants to hand you one and they don't want to put in the information themselves? Can they put in the information themselves and you see it right away? All of those are factors to take in, and definitely think of who's going to be at your event helping you when you make those decisions. And again, what the reports look like. Get your accountant involved. And the last thing that you don't necessarily think about is comp tickets. We always end up comping tickets to certain people or, you know, volunteers that we want to make sure we've got their food options and stuff like that. How does comp tickets look? Some companies make you go in and use a code to buy their ticket and it's comped. Others, you can do it through the back end. And so your volunteer doesn't have to do 5 extra steps, or you don't have to do 5 extra steps. You just put in their name and email and they're good to go. Another thing to look at. So this is One Cause. This was the one we used that had the extra fee. I just want you guys to see kind of One Cause is like the top of the tier fundraising software out there because they're going to auto do all of these sponsors here. They've got all this different information. Their reports are great. The money comes in weekly. But there's not a huge amount of customization you as a foundation get to do. This is Greater Giving. We created this whole site. Greater Giving, I really liked them. We did our due diligence with a whole bunch of them. They're not the cheapest thing in the world, but they're not the most expensive in the world either. They're about middle tier, but they got on a 2-hour call with us and helped us design the website from scratch. As we add things, we can add silent auction here and everything else. While we get sponsors signed up, sponsorships will show up on the side. So that's just something I think a lot of people miss is what's my website going to look like? Because yeah, you can add a website link on your page that has your information, looks pretty like this, but when they go to pay and do the silent auction and stuff, they're going to be looking more at that page. So we want to make sure that page is attractive and is the common theme throughout. Okay, so my recommendations. Tax letters. How easy is it for you and your account to do tax letters? Always look at that with whatever you're deciding to do, especially for general donations. With events, there's a lot less general donations you have to worry about. The fees are the big one. The fees are what are gonna kill you if you think you raised 10,000 and all of a sudden you look and it's closer to 9,000. Clear expectations on your goals and your user levels. It's okay if you're like, my users aren't very tech savvy. Like some of these don't work. That's fine. But have those expectations when you go in to create these. And a lot of these systems also have great training tools for your volunteers that you can send them to look at it. Paid system, interview. Ask as much as you want. Ask other foundations. Who have you used? Who do you like? Get all the information. And then do your due diligence on reviews as well. Dig into what's out there on Google. And then always be thinking about back of your mind, how could someone use this for malicious purposes? We never want to think that as a nonprofit, but it happens. Can somebody hack this? Could somebody put in information wrong? Like, we never want to think our volunteers could do anything bad. With things like that happen. So always just thinking in the back of your mind, like, what would be my safeguards on that? My recommendation is to use multiple systems for your different needs. So, for example, we use PayPal and Venmo for those quick donations. They're wanting to grab something from us. Here's our Venmo. PayPal is just generally out there for donations. Zephy, we use it for the everyday fundraisers. It's going to be great for the birthday fundraiser we're doing, where it's kind of like a club where you sign on per month. And they create it as a membership, which is awesome. You can also, with that kind of stuff, dictate X amount of dollars is not tax deductible. It's a fair market value for things they're going to get. And then above that, that's the tax deductible. And with Zephy and with GiveButter, it'll send a tax letter for that above amount automatically once you put that in there. And then GiveButter, I highly suggest for your events that are going to have more than one thing going on. If you're just going to be having a ticket to get in and that's it, use Zephy. If you're going to be doing a event with tickets and a silent auction or some other component, I would suggest GiveButter. You can get everything in one shot and people aren't having to go to multiple different things. always have the option to take cash. Cash is king. And then with the paid programs, if your event's going to be over 15,000 is your goal. If you're doing tickets, donations, auctions, it's going to be a yearly event. You might have some bigger names at it, some larger sponsorships, paid programs. Also look at your number of volunteers. If you're going to have an event that you're hoping will bring in 10,000, but you've got 3 volunteers, you might want the paid program to help kind of cover some of that slack that you won't be able to take up. Okay, there any questions?
So I think I just wrote down like some little general questions. I guess so. What's the biggest mistake you see nonprofits make when choosing donation or an event platform, and how can foundations avoid it?
So I think the biggest is going with what they have always done.
Oh.
So, we do our general donations through Zeffy. We're just gonna keep doing that. And they start selling tickets to it, and then all of a sudden and we've done it too, where it's you start selling tickets, that's what you do, that's a program and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I have to do a silent auction separate through here. I have another QR code that people have to go into and put their information in. Um, so it's always every event start from scratch. Even if you did it the year before, reassess what you used. And
Is that too because there's always, like you said, all these new platforms that are kind of coming out?
there's always new platforms and they're always changing. I Give Butter every single month has a new thing they're adding to it. So you might not have used it last year, but all of a sudden now they have something really attractive like the texting that you're like, okay, now that makes sense for me. Um, what I do after every event is I have a powwow, especially with the people that are running the software and then accounting and me. What worked on our software, what didn't work on our software, what would we rather have? Is there something that would make things easier next year? And then as we're starting to plan the event, sorry, I just realized my lights are terrible. As we're starting to plan the event, I go through and look, well, the software we used last year, where is it at? Does it include the things we wanted? Or does it have something new that we're like, oh, I don't really like that? Um, just because you used it the year before doesn't mean you have to use it again. It is a nice feature because all of your past supporters are right there. But as soon as we finish an event, I download all of our supporters' information, how much they gave, phone numbers, email, everything that we have on them, because we can transfer it to something else.
Okay. My next question, I think you might have already answered this one, but what hidden fees or limitations surprised you after using different platforms that new nonprofits should know about before they commit?
Processing fees. Processing fees are huge and not just the percents. So like we saw with PayPal, it's 1.99%, which is lower than some of the ones out there. But then it's a higher per transaction fee. So if you're just doing little $10 ones, that's a lot more that's coming out percentage wise that you're bringing in. So yeah, what the processing fees are, who pays them,
Mm.
important.
Okay. Okay. My third question is, which platform has made the biggest difference in increasing event registrations or online donations, and what features contributed the most?
I would say, if we're looking at non-paid, I would say Give Butter.
Okay.
Give Butter because you can do those multiple things in one site. And they also get the updates when they've been outbid. I think our silent auction was higher because we had that option. Also, we had some things that didn't sell at the silent auction, and we were able to do a leftover silent auction and pull everything from that silent auction into another event and run it just through Give Butter again, and everything sold then. Yeah. So that was one that
Wow.
I didn't even know it could do that. And when I started doing that, I was like, this is amazing because I'm not stuck with 5 silent auction things that didn't sell.
Right, right. Trying to house them until the next event. That's awesome.
Yes.
Um, So, as an executive director, which platform has saved you the most time and what specific features have been the biggest game changer?
Okay. So, Give Butter takes a little more time with the events just because there is so much going on if you're doing a silent auction. Um, but Zeppy for every day is a lifesaver. Like literally, it's set up. I grab it. They have a little copy thing. You can plug it in everywhere. You can create your tiny URL from it. Tiny URLs are amazing. If you're not doing them, start doing them. They are so easy for people to remember. And some of those platforms, it's like, what is it? It's like givebutter.markjr. The event random numbers. Nobody wants to type that in. And for your people that don't do QRs, or if you're doing it on Facebook or something, a short little tiny URL is a lifesaver. Um, the nice thing too with Give Butter and Zeppy is they create the QR codes for you. That's been really nice. If you're paying for a paid program to create QR codes, stop. Canva can do it for you for free. For however many websites you want to do on the same piece of paper, even. But that's definitely been a lifesaver for them to be able to do that and just have it there.
Okay, so I think those are really all the questions I had. Again, thank you so much. You do like such
Absolutely.
an amazing job at everything, obviously, even this. So thank you.
No, absolutely. And if anyone,
Okay, so now you've heard directly from someone who's in it every single day, managing two foundations, running events, processing donations, and protecting the financial integrity of everything we've built. And I want to make sure you walk away from this video with more than just a list of platforms. I want you to walk away with a decision-making framework. So let me give you the passion to purpose principles, 3 questions every nonprofit founder must answer before they choose any fundraising platform. Question 1. What is the compliance cost? Not just the processing fee, but what does this platform require from you in terms of IRS tax letters, donor data collection, and board ready reporting? If your accountant can't work with this report, the platform is costing you more than just fees. Question 2. What is the sustainability fit? Is this a one-time event tool or an ongoing revenue infrastructure? Your sustainable nonprofit needs platforms that support reoccurring giving, campaign stacking, and donor retention, not just a one-time transaction. And question 3, what does your donor experience look like? Your donors are your mission partners. If they hit 3 confusing screens, get surprised by unexpected fees, or never receive a tax letter, you are not just losing a donation, you are losing a relationship. And in the nonprofit world, relationships are your fundraising infrastructure. Now, here's what I need you to do next. If you're still in the early stages of building your nonprofit, if you're trying to figure out your fundraising model, your board structure, your grant readiness, your sustainability strategy, then I want to invite you to the next steps with me inside Passion to Purpose. This is the program where I walk mission-driven founders step by step through building a nonprofit that is not just legally approved, but financially sustainable, board governed, and grant ready from day one. The link is in the description below. Go check us out. And if you're not ready for this yet, that's completely okay. Here's what I want you to do now. Subscribe to the channel because every single week I drop content exactly like this, real strategies, real stories from real nonprofit founders who are doing the work. Hit the like button if this video gave you clarity today. Leave a comment below and tell me which platform you're currently using and what is your biggest challenge with your fundraising infrastructure right now. I personally read every comment, and if you have a friend, a colleague, or someone in your community who is building a nonprofit or running a foundation, share this video with them. This is the kind of information that can save a nonprofit thousands of dollars and years of frustration. You were called to this mission. Now let's make sure you have the structure to sustain it. I'll see you in the next video.